All right, let's just dive right into it. Have you ever noticed how you can literally memorize every single financial rule, build the absolute perfect spreadsheet, and still feel like you're somehow sabotaging your own wealth? Yeah, it's frustrating. And that's because money, well, it's not just a math problem. It's a deeply psychological game. This explainer right here, it isn't about giving you hot stock tips. Think of it more as a diagnosis. We're going to expose how your mind quietly works against you, setting up these invisible mental traps that can completely destroy your financial future. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how you can escape them.
So I want to kick things off by asking you a question that honestly might make you a little uncomfortable. Here it is. Are you playing your own game or someone else's? I know, it sounds super simple, right? But as you'll see in this deep dive into our financial mindset, mistaking someone else's strategy for your own is literally one of the quickest ways to lose absolutely everything. And that brings us straight to Morgan House's core thesis. He says, doing well with money has a lot to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. You see, you can be a total genius, calculating, highly disciplined, but raw intelligence, it doesn't protect you from emotional bias. It just hides it. You simply cannot outsmart a behavioral trap.
To break all of this down, we've synthesized 18 of these common mental traps into 4 distinct themes. We'll start with the illusion of rationality, move on to ego, status, and enough, cover the cure with risk, time, and survival, and finally wrap up with freedom and playing your own game. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The illusion of rationality.
So why on earth do two people look at the exact same investment and make completely opposite choices? Well, imagine a stockbroker who lost absolutely everything in the Great Depression of the 1930s. To them, the stock market is just a terrifying gamble, right? Now compare that to a tech worker who made a killing during the dot-com boom of the 1990s. To that person, risk means pure opportunity. The thing is, neither of these people is actually crazy. Their financial worldviews are shaped almost 100% by their own tiny, microscopic sliver of past experiences. You can study the 2008 crash all day long, but if you didn't actually live through the panic, you're just not going to have those same emotional scars.
We also love to trick ourselves into thinking that success is fully earned. But let's look at Bill Gates. Obviously, the guy is undeniably brilliant. But back in the 1970s, he just so happened to attend one of the only high schools in America that actually had a computer. That is a 1 in a million stroke of luck that gave him an unbelievable head start. Now, on the flip side, consider his really close friend Kent Evans. Kent was equally brilliant, equally obsessed with computers, but Kent tragically died in a mountaineering accident before he even finished high school. That is a 1 in a million stroke of risk. 2 brilliant minds, 2 wildly different outcomes, and neither was fully in their control.
So, the big takeaway here is that every single financial outcome is a mix of this uncontrollable triad: effort, luck, and risk. And because you literally cannot replicate someone else's exact circumstances, their unique luck or these specific risks they manage to avoid, you really shouldn't blindly copy their strategies. Instead of idolizing these individual anomalies, we need to look for broad patterns that actually have a shot at working in our favor over the long haul.
Moving on to Section 2. Ego, status, and enough. The symptoms of financial ego.
Look, there is a massive difference between looking rich and being rich. We so often fall into what's known as the man-in-the-car paradox. Think about it. When you see someone cruising by in a $100,000 Ferrari, you don't actually admire the driver, you admire the car, and you immediately picture yourself in it. We're literally spending our hard-earned money to impress people who aren't even paying attention to us. Looking rich is all about spending money, but true wealth is silent. It's the money you didn't blow on that car upgrade. It's the financial assets you haven't converted into physical stuff.
And if you don't grasp that concept, you fall straight into the trap of never enough. $20 billion. That was Sam Bankman-Fried's net worth when he was just 29 years old. He was literally one of the richest self-made billionaires in history. He had absolutely everything he could ever need. But because he completely lacked a sense of enough, he risked what he had and needed for what he didn't have and didn't need. He just kept pushing and pushing for more status, more control, until the whole thing collapsed into a prison sentence. The scary truth is, comparison truly has no ceiling.
Which leads us to this incredibly powerful definition. Savings is simply the gap between your ego and your income. Building wealth is actually way less about earning a massive, top-tier salary and way more about keeping your lifestyle ego in check. Just picture a lawyer making $250,000 a year, but spending every last dime on a Porsche, private schools, and fancy dinners. If your ego rises just as fast as your income, you literally have zero breathing room. Wealth is the space you build by actively choosing to live below your means.
Section 3. Risk, Time, and Survival. The Cure for Financial Failure. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Getting rich and staying rich require completely opposite skill sets. Getting rich is all about playing offense. It takes boldness, extreme optimism, taking big swings. But staying rich, that is pure defense. It requires caution, a lot of humility, and most importantly, leaving room for error. If your financial strategy only works when absolutely everything goes perfectly right, well, it's completely fragile. The real secret to compounding wealth isn't genius, it's just survival. It's avoiding catastrophe so you can actually stay in the game. Take Warren Buffett, for example. He's worth around $160 billion today. But get this, over $156 billion of that fortune came after his 65th birthday. The secret wasn't necessarily just picking the absolute perfect stocks. It was the fact that he started at age 10 and survived in the market for over 80 years. Time and compounding are the actual heavy lifters when it comes to wealth creation. It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it.
But to let compounding do its thing, you have to be patient enough to wait for the tail events. Historically speaking, if you look at the Russell 3000 index, a measly 7% of companies drove literally all of the market's net gains. 93% did not. Massive success is incredibly rare. You can actually be totally wrong half the time and still make an absolute fortune simply because a few massive unexpected wins will end up carrying all the weight. To really hammer that point home, just consider the number 10. Warren Buffett has owned hundreds and hundreds of stocks in his lifetime, but nearly all of his incredible wealth, it came from just 10 of them. Just 10. One really big win comfortably covers a dozen losses. But, and this is the kicker, you only catch those big wins if you survive long enough to actually see them happen.
So how exactly do you survive the ride? Well, spreadsheets don't panic during a 30% market drop, but human beings absolutely do. To endure that emotional cost without completely panicking, you need 3 things. First, you have to view market volatility as a fee for admission, not a fine for doing something wrong. Second, just accept the emotional discomfort. There is no free lunch in investing. And third, zoom out to decades, not days. Pessimism and fear will always sound way smarter and grab all the headlines, but I promise you, quiet, steady optimism is what actually wins over time.
And finally, Section 4, Freedom and Your Own Game, Finding Your Finish Line.
This right here is a massive trap, so listen closely. Stop mistaking someone else's strategy for your own. If you are a long-term investor just trying to build a solid retirement fund, it makes absolutely zero sense for you to copy the high-risk, volatile moves of a day trader who's just chasing momentum. You might inherit all of their risks without even understanding their rules. And the exact same thing goes for spending. Don't copy a corporate executive's status spending if what you truly value is a flexible, work-from-home freelancer lifestyle. You have to know exactly what game you are playing and totally tune out the noise from people playing a completely different one.
Because once you actually know your game, you can redefine wealth entirely. True wealth isn't a flashy luxury watch or a massive sprawling house. True wealth is freedom. It's having ultimate control over your time, and it is absolute peace of mind. In fact, studies consistently show that having a strong sense of control over your own life is literally the most dependable predictor of human happiness.
Section 5. The ultimate financial goal. From diagnosis to the cure.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this one incredible thought. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. The absolute greatest dividend that money can ever pay isn't luxury. It's the unshakable freedom to control your own schedule. That right there, that is the real finish line.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really provocative thought to chew on. What game are you actually playing, and what is your personal definition of enough? Because honestly, until you can answer those 2 questions clearly, you are always going to be vulnerable to the mental traps we covered today. So define your finish line, protect it fiercely, and start playing your own game.